Welcome to the Hustle or Bust podcast powered by Paverart. Our mission is simple: to dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, small business, and all the success, struggle, and challenges that need to be confronted in the pursuit of growth. We celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit, but perhaps most important, we want you to learn at least one idea that you can put into action immediately to make your investment in time worthwhile.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Hustle or Bust podcast, where we speak to Dean Dzurilla, from the garbage dumpster and hitting career rock bottom to founding 3 multi-million-dollar companies. We talk about something that's all too common nowadays: entrepreneurial porn. It's cheap, it's trash, and it's just not real. We talk about career heartbreak and breaking through, mental health challenges, and something Dean is particularly well versed in: the art and skill of sales. We hope you enjoy, and drop us a line with some feedback. Why don't you give us a little rundown for a little bit about our pod, what we're trying to do here.
Yes.
We're talking to small business owners, we're talking to people that are managers at small businesses or even big businesses, and in generally the people that would be attracted to our podcast. I mean, the name Hustle or Bust, people that are into growth, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
They're willing to take sacrifices. Give a little bit of your backstory in terms of what got you here, the early years and what brought you here today. And then, if you don't mind, we'll just keep it loose and conversational and fire questions.
Yeah, good. I definitely prefer that. Where to start? I don't want to bore you too much, Mike. Mark knows me from my years at the same college that we went to. So I will start with, that's probably the best place to start. So Mark was actually pretty instrumental into where I am today. He's got a friend, and we're mutual friends with this other guy, and he is as instrumental as well, right? So I met these guys who were 2 years older than I was back in school, and I kind of went, wow, so that's what it would be like to kind of be a stud on campus. Okay, good. And I was just immediately impressed with just how they carry themselves. Mark at the time was president of the marketing club. It was a good shiny object for me to point to, right? And say, yeah, I can be like that. So learned a couple of things along the way in school that I immediately said, this does not apply at all to when I got out of school, right? Mm-hmm. So I came out of school hot. I thought I was on my way. I went to go work for a .com company outside of Boston with a big old chip on my shoulder, and I was ready to tackle the world. And I walked in that first day, and it was like slap, slap. Everywhere I looked, it was just like, wow, this is kind of underwhelming. This is not
23, 24, 25
23, 20. I could even back that up. So upon graduating, I decided to go to Europe, backpack around, right? And I lived there for 6 months.
Good for you.
Shortly before that. And it was fantastic. Not when I graduated. While I was in school, I did an exchange program. I was there for 6 months, and it was an amazing experience, truly amazing experience. Saw just some eye-opening stuff, made some friendships that I still have today, which is fantastic. And made some travel buddies too, which is great, right? So we go visit them, they come visit us, we meet other parts of the world. And now we're in that second generation too. So we've had kids, they've had kids. Now our kids are growing up together. It's very neat, to the point where we'd get together, once or twice a year, like that kind of
awesome
closeness, right? And so I did a backpacking trip after graduating school, and I had 4 or 5 recruiters essentially handing me the job without even interviewing, right? And I was like, leave me alone. Don't you know who you're talking to? Leave me alone. I'm backpacking across Europe. I had that uppity in me, right? And so I took that attitude into this first job, and it was a big old mistake. It was definitely a big old mistake. And fast forward of just a series of mistakes that company made. I was not a very good employee, yet they kept me around, and I survived multiple rounds of layoffs before the company went out of business. And by the time it was time to get another job, the world had changed. Mm-hmm. So 9/11 happened.
Sure.
The whole .com crash happened, and there were no jobs to be had for guys like me.
Right.
And I just basically went into I don't get it. And it was tough. It was really tough. To the point where it was like, there's definitely got to be something wrong with me. I know there's got to be something wrong with me. And as much piss and vinegar as I had prior to that point, that's how low I ended up getting. And I am a hustler and a fighter. There's no quitting me, and I had rent to make, and I had bills to pay, and I took jobs anywhere I could get them. So it was not beneath me to do things like work at a Restoration Hardware in the mall, and go work at another store doing inventory in the morning at 3 a.m. to counting their stuff, to getting involved with these focus groups that they pay cash, $75 an hour, $150 an hour for them to interview you, right?
Really?
Yeah. And it was a pretty good gig. Now, on a Monday, I had to play it off like I was a dental student. And on a Tuesday, I had to play it off like I was an architect. And on a Wednesday, I had to play it off like I was a software developer, right? But hey, keep a straight face. You go through these things. I'm plenty okay with giving my opinion. Totally fine, right? Is it an informed opinion?
The birth of a salesperson.
That is good stuff right there.
Absolutely right. Right. But yes, I am. Yes, I am. Right. And so it kept that going. And wouldn't you know, through all those odd jobs and all those odd experiences, I started making more money than I did when I had my professional job out of school. Just more things started coming my way, which was really kind of funny. But it came at a cost. It definitely came at a cost. And so one of these jobs that I was doing, again, no jobs were to be had. No professional jobs were to be had. Sure. And I was a security guard, right? Working at a hotel. And I would come home from my day job, which would be like at the Restoration Hardware in the mall. And I'd zoom home in my piece of garbage car. I'd get dressed as fast as I could into my Brooks Brothers suit. And I, had my one suit, I had my one tie, I had my one shirt, I had my dress shoes. I'd hop on the T and I'd head downtown Boston to get to the hotel where I was security. And I'd get a walkie-talkie and I'd be security guard at night, right? So there was a Christmas party one year for this company. And God, it was such an amazing moment. It was so surreal. So the CEO is up on stage and he's giving this very magnanimous speech. And he's just telling this story about really tough year, team, really, really tough year. But we did it. Somehow we did it. We pulled together. I know how difficult it was for all of you, but I'm just so proud of everyone. And I found myself just listening to this guy and like moving closer and closer to the stage and really feeling like I'm part of this company at this point. I'm not doing security. I'm not doing these 20 odd jobs. This is a company I'm working for. It was their Christmas party, but I'm there doing what I have to do. And then I get the walkie-talkie. Dean, we need you out back. We need you out back. All right. So I go out back and it's time for garbage, to chuck the garbage. And Dean, hop in the dumpster and we're going to hand you the garbage. And so here I go in my finest suit, what I thought I looked really good in. And I'm in this dumpster and I'm throwing garbage out and they are throwing me bags and bags and bags of garbage that I'm doing my best just to kind of catch, but it's hitting me. And of course, these bags are breaking open and now the trash is going all over me and all over my suit. And that just, I went home that night and I just cried like a baby. I mean, I cried in my pillow like I had a waterbed when I woke up. I had so many tears. And I at that point, that was my rock bottom moment. I didn't know it at the time, but it was my rock bottom moment. And as tough as it was, holy shit, like it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because whatever I had on that shoulder, off.
Right.
Off. And it was that wake up call again. whatever it takes. Do not never put yourself into this position again. Right. And so that was the moment where I said, all right, things are going to be different next time. So I did. I ended up going back into the professional world. And it was the world of sales. And I learned how to sell. I sucked at it at first. And I got a little bit better, and I got a little bit better. And I really committed to it. What started as kind of a placeholder thing, kind of like kind of had a dirty view of the word sales.
Sure.
It became my best friend. And I ended up not just liking it, but loving it and becoming super passionate about it. And I actually got pretty good at it. And so I started moving around the country. I got promoted into a position where they needed me to open up an office in another part of the country. I moved there. And then a little bit after that, I got recruited out to California to go work for a company out there, kind of a Silicon Valley startup, really early in space of what just took off. So it was just really great timing, and it really did help me kind of perfect what I was doing. So that was great. And the only thing that wasn't great is essentially where we were living. It was just, we had to find a new place to live. Just was not working out for us. So in our travels, we met some folks who said, okay, you should check out Austin. And I said, Austin? Where the hell is Austin? They said, it's in Texas. And me being from the Northeast, this girl that I was dating at the time from the Northeast, we're like, Texas? You really want to move to Texas? I don't know. Let's go check it out. And we did. And every stereotype that we had going into it, both being Yankees from the North, just completely blown away and dissolved. And it was shocking how nice it was here. And the people were just absolutely amazing and incredibly kind and welcoming. And it really felt like our people. And it was, the experience, what we were not having in California, we found here in one weekend, right, of visiting. So that was in, let's call that April of that year. And by August of that year, we were living in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And that girl became my wife. And here we are 15 years later, married with 2 children, survived 3 businesses that I started and ran, and learned a whole lot along the way, right? Carried that sense of, not again, like I'm not going to get back in that dumpster, but if I have to, that's okay. I've already been in that dumpster. I know what it's like to lose it all.
Well,
and it just served me really well, I think.
a great background, and it's amazing the kind of traveling through time. Here's one thing I caught. I like your opinion on it, or talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I read a lot of LinkedIn profiles, right? When you're recruiting people, when you're looking people up, when you're networking. I was telling Mike, we both looked at it. You've really got a way with words, and I love these little 2 or 3 words. Like your first one was at the first company you were at. I thought I was hot shit, but I wasn't. and then you build on it, like more gray hair, and you get these little blurbs. It makes you want to read the description underneath it, which is a really hard thing on an electronic profile to actually read it. But thought I was hot shit, but I wasn't. So start there, because, and you talked about this a little, Dean, coming out of school, what was it that created, and I was the same way. I can relate to that. I got my ass kicked. I got thrown out of accounts. What was it about that? I don't know if it's arrogance. How do you describe that, and what drove that? Is it just age, lack of maturity?
Yeah. A couple of things. So, great question. I think, when you're in it, and I certainly felt in it, right? If you think of the time, we came up when the internet was really just becoming a thing, specifically the web, right? The web was just finding its way. And so it was this brand new world of holy smokes. And if you think about like what were some of the first killer apps with the web, right? You think about email, but specifically when you think about the industry, think about marketing and the web were like that, right? And so I really feel like the time we came up through school, it was that blinding light, that beacon of you're meant to do this. Like, it's so obvious you are meant to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believed it. Like, if that was the calling and if that was the religion, then I was kneeling at that altar. I was buying it. I absolutely was buying it. And you just think about, and it's no different fast forward to the years that we are now, but originally at that time, this is when that entrepreneur porn lifestyle came about. Everywhere we read, there were so many magazines, and it was so hot because you had all these young millionaires and billionaires and overnight success stories and how easy it is to make it. And that's why I do call it the entrepreneur porn, because it's cheap. Right. It's trash. It turns out it's not real. Right. But coming out of, when I'm in that environment, and then coming out of the environment of that, and then getting to apply it and going to work for a company that from the outside in, holy smokes, like, they've figured it out. They are plugged into this exact jet stream of where I want to be plugged in. It only fed it. It absolutely fed it, right? It wasn't until I realized it's all smoke and mirrors and there's really no substance there, did I realize, well, if there's no substance there, then that's going to make me question me and my substance. And how deep is it? How much do I have? Not much at that point. Not much at all, in fact, at that point. And so, it's very easy for me to call myself a dud. Very easy for me to say, I thought I was hot shit. And I wasn't, because it's a truism. It's an absolute truism, right? And if I can't call myself that, then I can't call anybody else that. That's it.
Great point. Great point.
Did you have that on your LinkedIn profile or resume at that time, or that was just years of wisdom that accumulated and looking back on it?
Good question. You got to play the game. I had to play the game. Right. I definitely had to play the game. Did I have that on my probably not. I'm hesitating because I really don't know. I doubt it, but I'll tell you what I did do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I wasn't going back in that dumpster. I had to find something. I had to be different and find a way to be effective. And so I had this idea, kind of the play on the name of Dean. I made a cereal box, and I was a 3-dimensional mailer, just kind of leveraging my background of having done marketing work and doing direct response marketing work specifically.
You made a literal cereal box?
I made a literal cereal box. Yes. In fact, I could probably find it real quick if you guys want to see it right now.
I'd love to see it. And then the idea was you wanted to break through somehow, or?
I did. Yeah. Let me. I think I know where it is.
I'd love to see
it's
it.
in one
drawer.
One second. Let me see if it's here. And I only know this because my little guy pulled it out not too long ago. Shit, where did he put it?
It's probably under his bed.
Probably.
Remember the milk cartons? The missing people in the milk cartons?
Yeah, they don't. Hey, that was the original American Idol.
Right, exactly.
I found it.
Oh, that's classic. Dino's.
Unbelievable.
That is awesome.
Who built the graphics for you?
I did.
You did the graphics. Who built the box?
I did.
Oh my God.
That is cool. So, all right,
I wish I still had the URL, right? I had a Marketing Crunch.
All right, now
that's before TechCrunch. This was before TechCrunch.
Mike, we're going to interview a bunch of people over 52 episodes. No one's going to do this. So go into this story, Dean.
So this was me saying, all right, I've got competition. I have a lot of competition that's out there, right? Just give me a shot. And it's tough when you have a lot of noise. It's tough when you have thousands of people interviewing for the same job. I got to break through somehow. I could be really serious and I could be really stuffy, or I could have fun. And I like to have fun and I like to laugh and I try to make other people laugh, and great. So let me try this, right? I don't take myself all that seriously. Starting then as well. And I don't know. I really don't know how I came up with the cereal box of all things, except for maybe just the name I had growing up. I had an uncle that called me Dino. And I said, yeah, all right, maybe there's something here, right? So I made a prototype. I was like, I can do this. I can absolutely do this. And then I just went to work with whatever limited design skills I had. That was about the extent of everything that I could do.
Yep.
Well,
Fantastic.
that's as good as you're going to get. I
Right.
mean, I'm surprised Kellogg's didn't come a calling. That looks
no
fantastic.
kidding, huh? Yeah, I went with the post analysis, right?
Oh,
I
there
tried
you
to
go.
tie
Yeah.
in. I tried to tie in like my analytical background, right? I have a instead of like the vitamins, right? That your nutritional facts, I call them knowledgeable facts, and then it's got my know-how, and then just percentages of my skills next to it.
Ultra clever.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
almost over the
Thank you.
top. The only
Thank you.
thing that would the icing on the cake for that particular for those particular graphics might have been if you had a background like a vocal bed where you were singing "Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime" by Dean Martin,
That would have
because
been good.
that was his nickname, was Dino. So
Okay. Yeah.
but you know, one of the things that struck me, and this was when you were with NetSuite, and I'm going to read this because I think it's very poignant. And there's a question that I have on something that I gotta ask the question. And it goes like this: being part of the Silicon Valley startup scene put me on the path toward becoming a great salesman. It also planted the seeds for my future entrepreneurial life. It inspired me to take risks, fail quickly, underline that, fail quickly, ask for money, pivot, be relentless in mastering my craft, and never stop learning. I have to ask you, fail quickly. You got to expand on that a little bit. What do you mean by that? Give me the roots of that and explain what you mean by that, if you could.
Yeah, sure. Fail quickly is just don't be afraid to try something. See if it works. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, do something that does work.
Gotcha. It's great advice.
It's literally that easy. Yeah.
Well, it's great advice. Hard
Yes.
hard to expedite, but it's great
Absolutely.
advice.
Yeah.
Mark, we talk about that a little bit. It's the you get, and it took me years to get here, but saying yes is the hardest thing to do when you try to manage risk. Okay, that's part of the equation of managing risk, and getting to the point where you say, okay, enough of this shit. Yes is the answer. Let's go forward and do this. But I find myself doing more and more of that now, but that's because I've got a great partner. And I'm not saying that
and that helps.
Blow smoke up his skirt, but fail quickly. I needed to know something about that. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Now, you also come across as a very humble guy, Dean. You really do. And but I've got to ask you this. And when I in my past sales life, I mean, I was on the road for close to 40 years. In my past sales life, one of the things that I found that really bridged the gap between managing a territory and starting a business was what I referred to, and Mark and I've talked about this, the first big win. That is, to me, in my mind, that is so key because that powers you through all the crap and baloney.
I totally agree.
And the down times, and you can't wait to get home and tell the wife.
Yep.
Describe and explain to us, if you would, your first big win. What told you, you know what, I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path.
Wow. That's a really great question. It probably was not until my NetSuite days, in fact. So
Gotcha.
here, my third job, right? My third job before I had that big win. And that could be a little depressing. That's a lot of years between then to that big win, right? And it happened probably 3 months into my tenure
Wow.
at NetSuite. And it was a well-known national brand that came to the table looking at this software, using it in a way that NetSuite would have probably never imagined their customers using it at that point.
Sure.
And so I think that probably worked in my benefit in that, well, great. Here's a company that doesn't know how they should be using NetSuite, because if they did know, they would know that it's not going to work for how they want to do it. And here I'm working for an employer that doesn't know how to apply it in the way that this company wants to use it, right? So they can't tell me no. NetSuite can't tell me no at that point, because if you think there's something here, Dean, go for it. And I remember working that deal. Everything that I wanted to try, both in my head and everything that I had learned up to that point, and how to work with a customer, I got to try out, and it worked. And it wasn't like just overnight. It had to play its out, right? It was a full sales cycle, months-long sales cycle, many months. And I remember everyone, as soon as I started getting the buy-in, I mean, you talked about like what sustains you, when you go home with the wife and you get that win, and that sustains you so that you have those low moments. Well, before you even get to that, you've got to sustain your colleagues. You've got to manage up as well, right? And so,
great point.
From my colleagues' point of view, my manager's point of view, his manager's point of view, the CEO of the company, there were a couple of layers. I was a couple of layers removed at that point. You're doing what? This company is doing what? Skepticism to, oh wow, I think we might have something here. I kept doing more of what I wanted. I kept doing what I wanted. Do you need help? Nah, I'm good. Let me just keep doing what I'm doing. Wow. To quite literally the last day of the last month of the quarter, we got the deal inked.
Wow.
Cool.
And it was such a wow, and at the time seemed like a big deal. It was probably a $250,000 deal, something of that sort. But wow, you would think like I had hit the Powerball at that point, right? And it was such a fantastic moment. Of course, high-fiving around the office, plenty of great accolades. Going home, telling my girlfriend at the time, wife now, what I had done. And it was just such a validating moment for me of, okay, like all this work that I have been putting into it, all of the trying to master over these years, and then trying those jujitsu moves out, and it worked. Success. And nothing breeds success like success, as you know.
I got it. Well, it's because my follow-up question to this was going to be, obviously you developed your skill set as a salesperson in the previous 2 jobs. And prior to that, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that was going on with you internally, mentally, whatever, in regards to the skill set that you developed as a salesperson. But we all know the great salespeople also have impeccable instincts, and how much of this first big win relied on your instincts and knowing, okay, let's go to the next step. This is telling me we need to go to the next step, and then go to the next step, and so on and so forth, as you built that relationship and got towards that final close, if you will.
Yeah. Really great question. At the time, no, I didn't think it was instinct related. At the time when I was in it, no. I'm just going through the process. I'm thinking there's something there, but I'm just, okay, step A, step B, step C, one foot after the other kind of thing. looking back on it, hands down, you're absolutely right about the instinct thing, right? It was the instinct of being able to go, I can own this because it is so different. And because my approach is so different, I'm going to be successful with it. And at the time, I couldn't make that instant call. I didn't know any better. I really didn't know any. I didn't have anything to compare it to, right? There was no perspective for me to say it.
Sure.
All these years later, absolutely, because now I can compare it to, all right, I've been in enough, hundreds, thousands of sales cycles at this point to realize what a win could look. Early on, this one's a winner. There's something here. They're going to buy. They're flashing buying signals. That's when instinct kicks in. Also, that's where the gray hair helps. That's where the being the veteran of kind of knowing what a buyer looks like instead of just a tire kicker.
Thousands
right?
of times, yeah.
Laying out the small pieces of bait that if they take it right away, okay, you got something. You
Sure.
definitely have something here, right?
Exactly.
But at the time, no. So if you ask me at a point in time, did I know? No, I didn't know. With the benefit of hindsight and experience and looking back, absolutely, I can say
Gotcha.
it was instant.
Well, you
Gotcha.
talked a little bit about this in your historical kind of rundown, Dean, and
Yes.
it resonated when I read your website. You talk a little bit on your website, your coaching website, the perception that I think is widely held that you had that sales is, how'd you describe it? Like a sleazy profession?
Yes.
All the negative stereotypical things that you think about when the word salesman comes to mind, you had that belief. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
Because now I think sales is core to who you are and how you made your career, correct?
It is 100%.
So
Absolutely.
So talk through your hesitancy to dive into sales and kind of that evolution of developing your sales, your core competency, so to speak.
Yeah. And you guys got some good questions. That's a good one, Mark. I can categorically say, hands down, I would not be where I am right now, sitting in a beautiful part of the country with a very beautiful family in a nice house, doing what I'm doing right now, had I not gotten into sales. That much I know, hands down. And why I have such strong conviction around that is because, yes, I had ideas of what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I wanted to be a business owner. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to do something in the world of maybe technology, maybe marketing related, but that's about all I knew, right? It was more just the very abstract dream. Now, how do I connect those dots? How do I go from, I don't have anything. I literally worked 10 jobs at a time just to make rent and just to be able to pay my meager bills at the time, to, all right, I do know what it takes. I do know what I have to do when I get in front of somebody to convince them of a vision, my view of the world that's different than what they're looking at, right? And very difficult to go from standing still to running 100 miles an hour. You got to ease into it, right? To be able to convince somebody to write you a check for some kind of value, whether it be a product or a service or a combination of both, is probably the hardest thing to do, period. And that's really regardless of the size of the check. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, right? It's, are they going to get something of value from what you're promising them? And if you can go ahead and prove that you are trustworthy, that you do understand their pain, that your vision for that pain, your solution will ease that pain, great. Done. And so for me, being that business owner, that again would not have ever happened unless I had a successful run at sales beforehand. The confidence, the ability to just talk to somebody about something, to learn the mental gymnastics that it takes, the frameworks that you have to put together, knowing that the most successful people are the ones who listen more than they talk, knowing that your customer if you listen close enough, they'll tell you everything that they need and everything that you should be selling them if you just ask the right way. Lots of parallels between what I learned in being a professional salesman to what I then was able to put into practice when I built my businesses. And that's why I'm absolutely saying, without A, I would not have had B, hands down. I know that.
I call that the bridge.
Yeah, great way to put it. Yes.
You don't. That was a great question, Mark, because when you look at what a salesperson has to do, and that's how I started out. I started out in production, operations, got promoted into sales, and I had no idea what I was doing. Professional selling skills too, the Xerox training course. They sent me up to actually Boston to train for that. And I came back a different person, but I still hadn't sold anything yet. The idea of just the whole concept of time management was foreign to me. Okay.
Yeah.
The concept of anybody that's thrust out onto the road back in the day. And again, a lot of this has to do with your sheet. Okay. This is what I see on your website, and the yellow lines are what we had 40 years ago to start with. You've got 31 bullet points on here that are just off the charts awesome. Okay. But 40 years ago, we had 10 of those. Now, the other 21 were probably there in the underground somewhere, in the background somewhere. But, if you spoke to me back then about value prop and differentiation, I'd have looked at you like you had two heads. Okay. Yeah. But it's critical today. I mean, it's every one of these points is so important. Territory management, sales goals and quotas, compensation and incentive plans. We all knew that back then. The sales process, the sales tools, the competitive landscape, target customers and segmentate. These are all great points. But then you take this you go 3 times further: metrics, reporting, and dashboards. Dashboard back then was the metal dashboard on a Ford LTD. Sales training programs was your boss came in, said, all right, here's what you're to do. I expect you to be in here on Monday and plan for 2 weeks worth of sales calls. Okay. All right. How do I do that? Figure it out. Right. And I came out of an operations standpoint, so I knew the product cold. But when it came to the point where an opportunity presented itself to start a business, that was very comfortable after all those years on the road. Time management, organization, structure, and what you spoke to there was, all the keys, all the background that you needed to get involved with this. Yeah, was already in place, and that's what you had in place. And I just, I'm glad you spoke to that, because I think I think what we're trying to do here with this podcast is to help folks along the way to understand that, okay, here's some of the pitfalls, and here's what you have to do to kind of get over those pitfalls. And you've built a whole business on this. So, kudos to you. And
in the world of entrepreneurship, Dean, what do you think? People that are, let's say they're working corporate jobs, you've got a corporate background, and you went in at some point, you went on your own, started your own businesses.
Yes. Yeah.
How big of a deal do you think those people, and it's hard to, what do you think of the functional skill set of those people that start their own business? Do you think it's tilted towards sales or other functional areas? What ranks did they come up in?
Yeah, where are they coming? The stereotype of if you're in sales, you must be making money, I think is probably a misnomer. I know plenty of salespeople who are not selling a damn thing, and they don't have much money, right? But if you work under the guise of, well, you're in sales and you are successful in sales, that means you do have some money because you're making money because you're selling stuff. So you probably have a little bit more of a financial cushion that allows you to perhaps make that leap and make that jump. And I'm not saying that it's just primarily financial related, right? I know plenty of people who have way more money than the three of us put together, and they're chicken shit
Right.
They will never allow themselves to go ahead and do anything like that, right? So do I think they come from sales? Maybe. I think the functional areas, of course, depends the kind of business here that we're talking about as well. So I don't know if I could answer it from a what functional area are they coming from, so much as I can answer the kind of the personality profile that I think they have.
Well, I'll give you an
right?
example. In our world,
Yeah.
in our world, we sell hardscape designs and we ship them all over the country, but we don't install anything. So if you wanted a design for your backyard, we could ship it to you, but you got to have a hardscape, like a mason guy install a contractor. I would say, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong on my assumption, but I think 75% of those guys that run that business, they started out as people that landscapers. They were actually doing the work. And at some point they said, I got to go do this for myself. But I wouldn't say they're salespeople. They are craftsmen that then all of a sudden said, I got to start my own business here. Mike, do you agree with that?
I think it's higher than 75%. It's
All
probably
right, so
closer, it's probably closer to 90%.
So let's say it's the overwhelming majority. Now let's go
I
to
agree.
your world of sales coaching. These are not
Yes.
salespeople, yet they're business owners. How do you
I
help
understand.
people in that world?
I understand. So before I land that, I will, I'm just going to noodle on what you said and let's spitball on that a little bit. So I'm of the belief there are lots of different kinds of folks, right? But if you were to say there are two types of entrepreneurs, there's the opportunistic entrepreneur who will say, hey, you know what Mike and Mark have, that's pretty good. I think a lot of people are going to be ordering these designs. That's great. That's really, really great. I could see this residential. I could see this commercial. I think this product is going to take off. I'm reading kind of the tea leaves of, people have disposable income or they're looking for different landscaping options. I'm just collecting my data points. I'm going to start a Paverart install business because I really think this is going to be a thing. That's the opportunistic entrepreneur. Contrast that to the person who has been doing the landscape work themselves, the proverbial digging the ditch, swinging the pickaxe, learning the skill, learning the craft, being the technician, really understanding, okay, we've done it this way for so long, using these materials for so long, and this Paverart thing is pretty neat. And I'm willing to bet this is a better way to do it than just using rock or pebble or sand or decomposed granite or concrete. We're gonna use pavers, and I'm gonna take what I've learned, and because I know it so well. I know the act of landscaping, hardscaping, and I'm gonna start a business around that. Right. So one is coming at it from the opportunity, the business opportunity, and I'm gonna figure out now how to acquire those skills, and I'm gonna figure out how to acquire that labor to help me take advantage of the Paverart opportunity. And then the other perspective is, well, I know how to do all these things. I've been doing it for a while. Now I just need to build a business to go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity from the other side, right? So one is the opportunistic entrepreneur, and I think one is the technician entrepreneur. And that's where it kind of starts from. And then how I would coach them as kind of in a sales capacity, I have to start first with why. Why do you want to go from doing what you're doing right now to now laying it on the line, using your own money, your own capital, your own sweat, hanging your own shingle? You sure this is something that you want to do? You'd be surprised the answers that I get. Right?
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people don't expect it. A lot of people go, oh, I thought we were going to jump straight into sales. We got to back that up. You're not going to go straight into sales yet. So I need to know about you, and I need to know what drives you, and I need to understand, are you the technician coming at it that way, or are you the opportunist coming at it that way? And that's going to drive a lot of the strategy, right? And we'll kind of spitball on that a little bit. We'll dive into that. And to kind of test their commitment to what it is that they're trying to build or what they want to be part of, I'll ask them the magic wand question, which again, it's shocking how many times this trips people up. And the magic wand question is, so tell me, if you had a magic wand and you waved it and you can be doing anything, what would you be doing? And we would be starting here. And as soon as I got to that magic wand question, I'm shocked at how many times we end up in the complete opposite direction.
Okay.
And I say, I pause, and I pause for effect sometimes, or I really do ponder what they told me. And I say, then why aren't you doing that? Silence. And a lot of times it's almost that, oh shit moment that they have, right? I've been able to probably impact more lives with that one simple question than I have in anything else that I've been doing, because it forces people to take such a hard look at, are they doing the right things in life?
An
Is
honest
this really a career path?
An honest look.
A very honest look. And you know it, most people have tremendous difficulties having that kind of honest look at themselves. And, if I get a lot of hemming and hawing, and, just a lot of kind of disappointment, I already know the answer. They don't need to tell me. I know the answer.
Yeah.
I see it. I read it, right? I'll let them off the hook by saying, it's okay. You don't need to tell me, but I want you to think about it. And then I want you to tell yourself. And we'll leave it there. And it is very, again, just shocking to me how, wow, like that just really makes people question what it is that they're doing, but it also brings extreme focus. And so I'm able to then separate a lot of that wheat from the chaff. And so once I get rid of the bad stuff, now I can focus on the good stuff. And if you're telling me, you get through that magic wand question and you're telling me, well, this is what I should be doing. And I don't really get the question, because the whole reason why I'm considering hiring you is to help me go build this out. Doesn't matter. I know exactly what I need to hear at that point. Again, you told me everything at that point, that you are committed to this and that you do want to do this. So it's definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if that answers your question head on, Mark, about kind of the sales part of it. But again, before we can even get to the sales part of it, we got to get to that part of it, because sales is just the means to an end. Sales is a function, albeit a very important one. It serves its purpose. Sales is very unique in that it's the only function of a company that actually brings money in. Every other function of a company spends it. Super important. It is the lifeblood of the company, right? But we can't even get to that until we get to this part first.
Well, if we can back up a little bit, you've started and sold, what is it, 2 or 3 businesses, or?
I started 3 businesses. I had the opportunity to sell my second business. Made the miscalculation on a couple of fronts, where I did not sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I should have sold it in hindsight. I absolutely should have sold it in hindsight. But it was a bit hubris at that point. Hubris definitely got in the way. We were doing fantastic. Business was great. And the price point that landed on my table, very serious offer, very good offer. At the time, though, I thought, well, why would I take this when I know we could be doing this in a year's time, right? Less than a year.
Sure.
I know we're going to be doing this.
So it was valuation.
And it was valuation. Yeah.
Right.
And very generous valuation, by the way.
Sure.
Absolutely very generous valuation. But I was really convinced that, nope, like, let's just keep doing what we're doing, because we grew incredibly quickly and we were really the hot girl at the dance.
Right.
And my phone was ringing off the hook. I mean, literally, there was a good 24-month period, not exaggerating whatsoever. Every day, we were closing a new piece of business. Every day.
Right.
Closing, not every day new opportunity, not every day the phone was ringing, somebody talk about it. No, we were inking a new piece of business every single day.
Right.
And so I had my eyes on, this thing is going to be big, going to be real big. And I politely declined, and wow, like a lot of really good lessons. We could take up an entire podcast episode just talking about the lessons learned from that by itself. If you guys ever want to revisit that topic. But it also forced me to, again, getting back to I'm not going to get back in that dumpster. I wouldn't do the same thing again, which is why when I got to building that third company, it was different. It was very different. And again, a lot of really good lessons, took them, applied them, and we grew that thing very quickly. And that thing scaled up to a really good point. But I was tired. I was really tired at that point. And I knew I needed to make a change for my health, my mental health. Things like, Mark, you and I chatted about this the other day. I had my first panic attack in that time period. That scared the shit out of me. And I never had panic attacks growing up. Being an entrepreneur all those years, I never had panic attacks. All of a sudden I got a panic attack. What the hell is this thing? Right. And it took a toll. It absolutely took a toll. At the same time, both my parents were sick, having to think about them a lot. And what are we going to do with mom and dad? Had an opportunity at that point to sell the company. Again, it was very recent, selling that second company and turning that thing down, and then having this opportunity to sell it. It just made a lot of sense.
Sure.
Right. So the timing was right the timing is right in both where I was mentally, physically, spiritually, just knowing that I was done. I was pretty crisp at that point. And at the same time, it was a good deal. It was a good deal for the buyer. And then me being the seller, it was a good deal. Why wouldn't I take it?
Sure.
And I took it.
I think mental health, I'll give you my story on mental. I had I don't know if it was a panic attack, but I was feeling, this is way back in 2000, right after 9/11. Had everyone knows where they were. 9/11 is one of those days. Nobody will forget where they were. Maybe 3 or 4. My sister was living in Manhattan, so was a director of marketing for a Fortune 500 company, trade marketing. So running budgets, all that stuff. Pretty high stress job at a relatively young age. But on the ride home from the office to home, the heart starts racing, right? And I'm like, holy shit, am I having a heart attack? I think I was 29 years old, right? Managing a team.
Yeah, right.
Go to the doctor. And he didn't say panic attack, I don't believe, but he subscribed me for Ativan and he kind of put it in the category of, anxiety, things like that. And I was like, man, is 29 years old, great job. And now I got a prescription for Ativan here. Never took a pill. I flushed him down a toilet that night and I said, something's got to change. I mean,
wow.
Now Kim and I, my wife, we were trying to have kids unsuccessfully. Long story short, we ended up moving back to Jersey. And lo and behold, right when we got back to Jersey and I got my mental health a little bit better on firmer ground, we got pregnant with our daughter. So
amazing.
Those two things are probably related. But I think mental health in the world of sales or anything that's growth oriented and high achievement, over indexes towards mental health challenges, I think. What are your thoughts?
Hands down. It is amazing how much of it is in our head. I mean, look, you've got time and time, example after example of the best in the world. And you just got to be a little bit better than your competitor. And you're the champion. You win every single time, right? And yet, just side by side, they're on equal footing. I mean, the skills are there, the physical skills are there, right? But one has that mental edge. One has that mindset of the champion. One has the mindset of, I'm going to take care of what I got here so that I can take care of this thing here, which then will allow me to go ahead and take care of these things here, right? Whether it be your fingers, your feet, your whatever it is that you're doing. It is so key. I'm absolutely convinced it is so key. And what disappoints me is just how little we do talk about that, right? How little we do talk about the mental health part of it. It's still, and it's so much better now, but it's still kind of the stigma. It's still the, right? I grew up in a household, in a family where, yeah, if you had a cold, all right, we'll address the cold. And if you got a broken bone. Those things are obvious to see. Those things are obvious to address. Head? You got something wrong with your head? No. Right? Never talked about. Ever talked about.
Right. Exactly. Well,
it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
One of the things it's interesting, and Mark, you and I have talked about this too. And I wanted to ask you the question, Dean. It's in regards to the businesses that you've started, left, gone on to other businesses, your current business. Related to that, when we started this business, there were 3 of us, and we all came from different aspects, different business aspects, different markets. But the 3 of us that came into the business were pretty good at what we did. And the beauty of that was, and we know when you're starting a business from scratch, especially with a product that nobody's ever had or seen, you're selling from scratch. But each one of you is going to have a bad day at some point. It's when all 3 of you have the same bad day. That's when you go. That's when you go to the file and you pull out the,
your friend Jack,
the bottle of McAdams.
Mr. Daniels.
Guys, come on, we need to sit back for, take a step back. But no, in all seriousness, we were all capable of boosting each other. Okay. We knew we got to be such close friends. One was my brother, and the other got to be a very close friend, Mick Soroka. When we had issues or problems, there was always somebody in the group that could make sense of the problem, help solve it, get that key issue out there that the other 2 would glom onto and say, you know what, you're right. Let's try that out. Let's go do. And it just lifts the spirit of the group up. And all of a sudden you come in the next day and you're ready to kick ass and get going on the new idea.
Yes.
How do you handle that? Almost in isolation, if it's your business and you're running it yourself. Everybody, you've got maybe people working for you, but they're not on the same level as you. They don't have an equity ownership in the business. It's your business. How do you deal with that and the panic attacks and the bad days? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, great question. A couple of different ways. So yes, even though it is your baby and it's your entity and it's yours, you've still got to have a team of employees that see it as theirs as well, right? And so if you can incent them, and it doesn't always have to be financially incentivized, if you can get them to buy in, they can probably take, let's call it 30, they'll leave you with about 30% of the rest of the shit that you got to deal with.
Sure.
Right? They'll take on that 70% headache that you were stressing out about, that you were just being very obsessive about. And so you're going to give them a bunch of stuff that's going to take that weight off your shoulders and let them execute with.
Right.
And that is why culture is so important. And that is why company values and your own values are so important, because you have to be in alignment with your people and your people need to be in alignment with you. Right. And so that will absolutely take a good chunk of that weight. And then that other chunk, what's left, go hire a coach. And that's what I did. I hired a coach.
Okay.
I did. And fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It was someone that I could go to with problems, with issues, with ideas that I couldn't bring to my team. Right. The team doesn't want to know how much I'm freaking out. No matter how much transparency you say you want to build, no matter how much transparency you put as a company value and all of that, people don't want to be that transparent.
Right.
They may say they want transparency, but they don't want to be that transparent.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, that doesn't mean that you as the owner, you as the CEO, should be robbed of sharing it with somebody. You've got to bring that to somebody, because if you just keep it inside, you're going to start to break. You're absolutely going to break. Right. So go hire the coach. And that's what I did. And it helps. And it really, really helps. And it's part of it is just getting out of your head so that it's in front of you now and you can look at it. Perspective is everything when making decisions. It really is. And when you're in it, you're in that storm or you're in that tempest or whatever it might be, everywhere you look looks like a storm.
Oh, for sure.
But if you back yourself out, you start seeing blue skies. And what once looked like nothing but a storm starts to look smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And a coach absolutely will do that for you, right? The best athletes in the world, the best performers in the world, they're really good at what they do. They are the best for a reason. Yet they all have a coach. Isn't that funny? They all still need somebody to sharpen their game, to make them better.
You know, I had a flashback. You said a term earlier, half hour ago. What was it? Entrepreneurship porn?
Yeah.
The world of coaching is starting to get a little stiff. There's nothing I like more than a 22-year-old life coach. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? At 22, right? What life experience does a 22-year-old? So here I am. I'm listening to you, Dean. Yeah, I thought I was hot shit. You've got wisdom that is the benefit of age and success and failure, right? And you're breaking it down in a way that you're able to communicate it. Who wants to go to a 22-year-old life coach?
Yeah.
You know, not to be ageist against the whole thing.
I know exactly what you mean, Mark.
You've got to have a track record of some wins, some failures, if you're going to actually coach people. And this is heady shit that we're talking about. Panic attacks, and how do you run a company? And look, I can't agree with you more, but I am a little bit puzzled because the internet brings about life coaches and business coaches, and some of these people haven't accomplished jack shit. I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I agree.
It's totally off topic.
It's absolutely a thing. It's very much a thing. I'll say the same thing about the VC community.
Right, exactly.
Right. And kind of my world of getting in front of, just different folks and people who I meet. And I know a lot of VCs and I meet a lot of VCs and they walk around like they're king shit. Right. Because they do see themselves as the king and queen makers.
Look, the private equity world is littered with 28, 29-year-old MBAs from Ivy Leagues. They've never run a fucking business in their life.
Exactly. They live in a spreadsheet all day.
Right.
And yet they're walking around and they're going to have the nerve to be able to tell you how you should be running your business. Right. And this is this is what you need to do. These are the moves you need to make.
Right.
Excuse me. Have you ever had to cut payroll?
Right.
Have you ever had to go ahead and let someone off? Have you ever had to clean up a mess that people have just left behind? No, they haven't.
Right.
They absolutely have not. But yet they're going to tell you how you should run your business, how you should grow your business.
Right. Well, look,
the moves that you need to make.
Look, empathy is one of those critical things in life, but it helps if you've actually walked in someone's shoes to have a 100%, empathy, right?
Absolutely right.
So tell a little bit about, because we've been going here a little bit more than an hour. Who's the person or the business profile that you can help the most in the world of coaching?
Great question. I'd say the person that I probably, or persons that I probably have the most impact with would be that early stage company. I've been told one of my better gifts is creating structure out of chaos. Right? Lots of things moving around. If you want to think of that storm metaphor, if you want to think of puzzle pieces on a table, there's a whole lot. And it's about really early on finding patterns, being able to create pieces of that puzzle. Puzzle isn't done at that point by any means, but it now brings some structure and some order to it. And if I can impact early stage companies where they've got a product or they've got a service, they've got some customers, they've got some employees, they've got some headaches, they've got some wins, they've got some losses, they've got some momentum, I can absolutely amplify that for them. And I think that's where I work best, is kind of that early stage, right?
Awesome.
So it's hard enough to get to $1 million. It's really difficult to get to $1 million. Getting past $1 million, wow, incredibly difficult, right? The statistics are insane of just how few, I want to say like 96% of the businesses in America, and there are, I want to say 56,000. No, I do have some stats. I was just sharing this with someone. There are 30 million businesses in America. 96% of them have annual revenue under $1 million.
96%.
Yes.
Wow.
Only 4% are from 1 million to 10 million.
Wow.
And 0.04% make it past 10 million. Right? Yet half of our workforce work for small businesses.
Yep. They're the engine of the economy. They really are.
Without a doubt, the engine of the economy, right? So that's where I thrive. I love working with the small business. I love, again, a little bit further along, right? Not your typical small business. A little bit further along, again, they've had some wins, they've had some losses. They have seen some patterns, but there's a whole lot of chaos.
Right.
And I can come in there and I can help bring order to that chaos.
Awesome. What I'm curious, I'm always curious about how people, for you personally, Dean, how do you view, and I don't know what time frame you look at, but how do you view your personal success a year from now? If you were to look at 18 months down the road, what success look like for you?
Yeah, good question. Success for me is, I'm going to say probably, what kind of impact have I had on people, right? I mean, that is literally what drives me through and through. I think it is legacy. I think it is, I don't give two shits about the money. I really don't.
Right.
The money will follow. The money will happen.
True.
If that's important to you, take your focus off money, because funny how it shows up. Instead, focus on people. Focus on what it is that you want to build and how you want to impact somebody. So success for me is literally, I set myself a goal right before kind of pandemic lockdown of, I'm going to meet with one new person that I don't know at least once a week. So at least one person that I don't know, I'm going to sit down for a cup of coffee every week. I'm going to do that. And I hit it. And it was tough to do. And even through pandemic, I mean, it became increasingly more difficult to do, right? Fortunate I was in part of the country where it's a little bit more relaxed than other parts of the country. Yet I took those meetings, I shared my lessons. I get a ton out of it because I love asking questions. I love hearing other people's perspectives. Guess what? Newsflash. It's also a really great way to kind of read the tea leaves.
Sure. And
it's a really great like zeitgeist almost to understand, so this is an interesting opportunity. Maybe I should pursue this. This is what the market's asking for, right? It's a really, really great way to just learn. And then if you want to do something with it, great. And if I want to do something in the future with it, great. And sometimes those conversations and those coffees go nowhere. And sometimes they've actually led to some pretty strong breakthroughs for those people, right? Whether it be on their business front or, hey, I tried out this move and I'm now madly in love with this girl and she loves me just as much and we're going to get married. Or, I've been fighting with my husband nonstop and I don't know. I tried out what you said and it just kind of worked, right? Or shit, my kid was a pain in the ass, but that was pretty effective. That was really effective, right? Or my business is actually now back to being a real business. I love that. I absolutely love that. So for me, that's my indicator of success, is just how can I maximize potential in people? And if I can keep doing that, great. And if those are business owners, great. If those are just people who are struggling, great. If that's people who are less advantaged than us, who have maybe some physical disabilities, great. I love helping that just help. I mean, that to me, that's what success is really about.
Great vision. And I want to leave it off. And then Mike, unless you have any other further questions, I want to, the last thing on physical, you just joined a board, correct? I want you to talk a little bit about that, why you did it, the Best Buddies.
Yeah. Okay. I will. I did. I just, I was asked to join, the regional board for Best Buddies. And for those who may not know Best Buddies, really fantastic. It's actually an international nonprofit. A lot of focus here in the States. Not all states have equal coverage. There are other parts of the country that have maybe a little bit more entrenched. But what Best Buddies is just a really fantastic program for those with disabilities, right? And specifically, I'm talking about those with, we'll say, autism and Down syndrome, what they call IDD.
Sure.
And just such a beautiful bunch of people who have amazing hearts, who don't have the opportunities, or it's not always obvious they have the opportunities that we have, right? And so Best Buddies is just working with some equally beautiful people who have said, you know what, let's give those people those opportunities. Not give it to them, but let's create those opportunities. And let's have them take any kind of advantage of those opportunities that we can help make for them. And so my involvement is very much building out the Central Texas, because that's where Austin is, the Central Texas chapter of Best Buddies. Partnering with a couple of really good people at the organization, acting as a sounding board, acting as a coach, acting as a doer, limited resources to work with. They need help in terms of time, in terms of talents, in terms of influence, in terms of money. And I've told them that, you know, when I met them straight away, I said, you know, here are the ways I can help you. I'd love to get involved. Let me know when you're ready for help, and you have my help. And fast forward, let's call it 2 years. They officially asked me to come on board in a board capacity. And I said, absolutely. I'd be honored to. And so I'm helping them out.
Look, I'll give two. Number one, they're lucky to have you. The world of nonprofits needs talent like you bring to the table.
Thank you.
Be careful, because they'll take 60 hours of you if you give it to them. You got to be a little careful. I'm speaking as a former board member of a similar organization. But in terms of your goal and what success looks like and impacting people, and I can speak as a father of a 17-year-old girl with Down syndrome. The fear of parents with kids with special needs is tonight, Friday night. There's a pizza party going on in high school, and their kid might not be invited to it. What Best Buddies does, they form those social connections.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I can't quantify what that's worth, but you can't calculate a value on it. It is massively impactful. So
Awesome.
by you being on the
Huge.
board, you're going to amplify that goal 10 times more by being on that board. You're going to do it as well on coaching. But my hat's off to you for picking that organization for the goal that you have. Perfect alignment. Absolutely perfect.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo.
I really am very blessed to be part of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look, great way to wrap this up. Mike, do you have any other final parting shots or words that you want to throw here? Or
I love to talk, and of course I have a parting shot. Mark knows that. It's funny you brought up your goal was to meet one new person every week. Well, I met my new person this week, and that's you. And look, your story, I think, is very inspirational. Your success as a result of the story and that journey is very inspirational too. And people need to know that. I can imagine you're a tremendous mentor and a coach. I can only, you've got the bona fides, but you're also a genuinely nice person. I mean,
Thanks, Mike.
you come across very, very, just very, very well. And look, we all have our own journeys, and occasionally you get kicked off, you get back on, you get kicked off, you get back on again.
Yep.
To be an entrepreneur, it's not easy.
Right.
And not everybody is built for that, but I can certainly see that you certainly are. And I think Mark and I, when we've interviewed folks in the past, we always learn something from the folks that we interview. And it's not just from doing the deep dive and, into their background and their LinkedIn and whatever it is that we look into. It's just from genuinely talking to them and learning something from them. And I learned a lot from you today. So thank you very much for coming on board, Dean Dzurilla. We appreciated it very, very much. So
that's really great. Thank you, guys. And thanks so much for having me.
Oh, look, you're a
Mike,
shining star.
awesome
So
to meet
look,
you.
we
thanks,
Dean,
Mark.
Nice to meet you.
we appreciate your time, and we will talk soon, Dean.